I'd like to call the meeting of Monday, March 26th to order.
Okay.
First on the agenda tonight, we have our student representative, Max Shepard from Oxford High School. Max, take it away.
All right, so coming up in April, we have the art department is holding their Night of the Arts open to the community on April 26th. Student Council just finished our flower fundraiser where we take a portion of those proceeds and send some of our Student Council members to the MASC Summer Conference. We also held RSVP again and we'll be bringing those findings before the school committee at their next meeting. The NHS induction for the high school is scheduled for April 24th and the community is also welcome to that. Currently, we are collecting items, the NHS, for the Oxford Animal Shelter and the Community Cat Connection in Webster. And Megan Raymond, the Project 351 ambassador at OHS, is collecting new and gently used baby, child, and teen clothing. You can see bins all over the high school and middle school. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Max, very much.
Thank you.
Next, we have the Oxford Middle School representatives, Sydney Ryder and Andrew Schultz. If you guys want to come up and get to the table here and give us an update on what's happening at the Oxford Middle School.
NJHS induction ceremony will be held at Oxford Middle School on Wednesday, March 28th at 7 p.m. All families and friends are invited for refreshments after the ceremony in the cafeteria. Congratulations to the 34 new 6th and 7th graders being inducted. Student Council would like to thank the staff and students and parents for participating in Spirit Week and purchasing candygrams. On April 2nd, Student Council is hosting Wear Blue for Autism Awareness. Student Council is brainstorming about fundraising for Ryan Strong. Four 6th, 7th grader chorus members from OMS were accepted to the junior level Mass Central District Chorus following their auditions at Grafton High School on February 3rd. They are Robert Shaw, Patrick Reed, Lauren Hennessy, and Caitlin DeJesus. This is OMS's 7th year of participating in the prestigious regional event. Rehearsals and the concert for these students will be in April. Several students from OMS participated in the OHS musical Dorothy in Wonderland. Performances were March 22nd, March 23rd, and March 24th. Mrs. Crutcher's Art Club on Mondays 2:30 to 3:30. Session 2 will begin on April 9th. The second annual district-wide Night of the Arts will be taking place on April 26th from 5 to 8 p.m. Over 400 Oxford Middle School students will have art displayed at Oxford High School and refreshments will be available for purchase. Come see art from current and former OMS students.
Yearbooks are on sale for a base price of $20 through April. Orders can be placed easily online or families can use the slip attached to the form. We have 20 more students participating in the Girls Incorporated babysitting class at OMS every Wednesday afternoon until the end of May. These students will also get Red Cross certification in babysitting. The program is free to Oxford OMS students thanks to a grant that Girls Inc. writes each year. We have 4 students who will be participating with Girls on the Run this spring, along with students from Clara Barton. Students will also attend meetings in the afternoon on Mondays and Thursdays at Barton. 2 groups of students from grade 6 will take their field trip March 27th to WPI in Worcester, where they will participate in the middle school STEM experience, touring the college and working in the school's pre-collegiate outreach program. Grade 5 students went to the Boston Museum of Science on March 23rd. MCAS testing will begin on April 2nd at OMS and will continue until May. We will be testing 1 grade level at a time using our 3 computer labs and Chromebook carts. Schedules for testing went home with all the students last week.
Excellent. Thank you both very, very much. You did a great job with that. Next, we have the consent agenda. We have the minutes from March 12th, 2018. We have the minutes from March 21st, 2018. That was a joint budget meeting. We have the routine items are a field trip out of state for NJROTC. We have an accounts payable warrant dated March 13th, 2018 for $40,340.35. We have an accounts payable dated March 20th, 2018 for $115,740. We have a payroll warrant dated March 20th, 2018 for $668,336.87. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion.
Could we have a second?
Second.
Could we put that to a vote, please? Mrs. Day?
Yes.
Mrs. Forbes?
Yes.
Mrs. Griffin?
Yes.
I also vote yes. Those are approved. Next, we have a public hearing for school choice. The school committee will discuss whether the district will allow students from other communities to attend schools in Oxford per Mass General Law 76. Do you want to take that?
Sure, thank you. As the committee members know, each year under the law, Chapter 76, Section 12B, 4D, you are required to take a vote prior to June 1st as to whether or not a public school district will participate in school choice during the next school year. I will waive the reading of the law, which you have, and simply say that it is my recommendation that the Oxford Public School Committee votes not to elect to participate in school choice next year due to enrollment.
Okay, any questions from the committee? Any comments?
I just have one question. What is our current policy? I know the school committee voted a year ago to
Not
allow
to-
some grades
not to
and not
allow,
others.
right.
No grades at all.
We did not allow school choice last year.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? The recommendation from our interim superintendent is that we do not allow school choice for this coming school year. Do we have a motion to approve that recommendation?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Can we put that to the vote, please? Mrs. Day?
Yes.
Mrs. Forbes?
No.
Okay, Mrs. Griffin?
Yes.
And I vote yes, so you have 3 in the affirmative, 1 in the negative. Next, we have our FY19 budget. Dr. Nash?
Sure. I know the audience may not see this. There are some copies of the public hearing. We have a few hard copies, but if you want to move your chairs up and angle them, because the presentation and the PowerPoint is at an awkward angle for people. So feel free to move up before I begin, but there are a few copies of the hard copies, of the PowerPoint that I'm going to go over. Justin, first slide. So, as you are aware, this is under the law. The school committee is required each year to hold a public hearing. And this is Oxford Public Schools' public hearing for its FY19 budget. I won't go through all of this, but these are some of the areas that we'll highlight in our budget, beginning with looking at what was established a few years ago as the district's mission, vision, and goals. We'll outline for you a little bit of the process that we use as we begin the budget process, which usually begins around October or November and concludes at the annual town meeting in May or June, dependent on your town or city. I will provide to you some information on the district profile, our student services and the cost, the types of budget. In the fall, the school committee charges us with a type of budget that it wants us to develop. We'll talk about those budget types, some of our major budget categories and the costs that these involve and the percentages of the pie chart, our indirect costs that we are assessed as a school district, as well as transportation costs, circuit breaker funding, and what you will find as our proposed school committee level services budget. So for the community, the school committee is recommending at this point in time that we should develop, and we did develop, a level services budget. The consequences if we do not get a level services budget, and there'll be some detailed information regarding the cost and the budget gap, what the town at this point in time is prepared to provide as a figure, what that gap looks like, and then end up with what would happen as a result of us not receiving a level services budget, and what impact that will have on certainly our population with respect to our staff and indirect costs. And then finally, talk about the capital projects that we have presented to the town and which projects in particular the town will be moving forward. So let's begin with something that many of you are familiar with. This is the mission and vision of Oxford Public Schools. It was developed a few years ago as part of the accelerated improvement plan that the former superintendent established. I would point out, as I did to the FinCom committee last week, some key words when we talk about the need in our mission to make sure that we can produce students who are critical thinkers, to foster a sense of lifelong learning, and certainly students who would make significant contributions to a global society. The vision of the Oxford Public Schools is to prepare all students to be prepared to participate as active citizens in the 21st century global society, to ensure that they have an understanding and experience in technology and appreciation for learning, and certainly an understanding of diversity. To that end, a few years ago, Oxford Public Schools received a commitment and a capital initiative for a one-on-one student initiative in technology for grades 8 through 12. Our capital plan includes extending that in the next few years down to grades 7 and 6. And so we'll see whether or not that will be supported in future years. Next slide, please. The goals for achieving this educational excellence, again, were part of the district's accelerated improvement plan, approved and adopted back in May of 2015. To no surprise, these goals are very similar to what you find in high-performing school districts across the state. The fact that you want to ensure rigorous curriculum, high-quality instruction in all classrooms. We certainly know as educators that in order for this to happen, we need appropriate staffing ratios and we need up-to-date resources, to name 2 areas. The second goal is to continue to develop a data-driven culture that builds the district's capacity to monitor all of the improvement efforts and to make data-based decisions. Again, a lot of this happens in our professional development days that we ensure, and again, it takes into account the resources that we would need to make that happen, both in training for staff as well as online types of resources to make it easier for staff to access that data, to keep that data, and to ensure that it can transition between grades. The last goal is about increasing the capacity for a school district to provide targeted interventions and differentiated rigorous enrichment opportunities for all students. Again, that goes back to staffing and resources. So all of these, as part of an improvement plan that was developed a few years ago, entail that we do not make reductions in staff and we do not make reductions in our discretionary budget in order to ensure that we have the resources to do that. Next slide. This is our timeline. I'm not going to go through this, but the process begins early in October. The charge of a school committee, one of its 3 chief functions as a school committee, is to approve budget. So the budget is the chief instructional tool in a school district. Without the budget, we certainly are limited in what we can do. Without a budget that reflects our needs and stays consistent with ongoing kinds of needs, we again are not able to accomplish our goals. So our budget process started in early October through December, when we engaged all of the stakeholders at the building level to develop their budgets. The charge from this school committee was to develop a level services budget. Simply put, that means that when you open the door next year, there are no reductions. Staff, services, programs remain the same. So the school committee was intent that we would develop that budget and provide for them the cost for doing that, which is what we have done this evening. In addition to that, since certainly school committees need to be realistic, we needed to also have the discussion as part of the administrative team with what would happen if the town did not support a level services budget. What would that look like? What would that budget gap number be? And what would be the anticipation of what a budget that was not a level services budget, that was a level funded budget, meaning the same amount of money as we received in the past, which was last May, the figure from last May, when the town meeting approved a figure, that what would the impact be of that? What would it look like with respect to staffing for next year and any other areas in the budget that would need to be reduced? That is a long iterative process, and again, if you go to the next slide, you'll see that tonight in March, we have our budget hearing, which is the public hearing for a school budget that you're required under law to have. The school committee tonight will be required to take some action and to vote a figure, and then we'll move forward from there in working with the town to see whether or not there are any additional funds, but we'll have to move forward based on the fact that if the town does not support a level services budget at this point in time, that we will need to obviously notify individuals as well as make some decisions based on what you see this evening with respect to staffing for next year. May 4th is the town meeting. At that time, that figure will be approved. If the committee decides to do something different this evening, then again, that will be brought to the town and decisions will be made, usually at a later date beyond that. And that would include, for example, any decisions around an override. Next slide. I wanted our community at large to have some understanding of staffing. I think that's a question that oftentimes people who are not necessarily as informed as those of us who are in the trenches on a daily basis understand, but this is the district staff and what it looks like. I won't go through it. These are the department's central office, our special education department, technology, custodians, nurses, and food service. These are really part of our central office. Certainly a number of years ago, our custodians were decimated, our staff, from well over, I think, 14 or 15 to now 7. 7 custodians servicing 5 buildings in this district. The comment that I made to the FinCom committee the other evening was about the per square footage recommendations for cleaning standards. And we are by no means in compliance with those. They say that on average you should have 1 custodian for 28,000 square feet to do adequate cleaning. This district does not have that. We are fortunate that we have a nurse in every building. There are districts who do not have that. We have maintained that. I fully support that. We deal with so many students today with all kinds of medical issues that it's critical for us certainly to keep the staffing where it is. Our food service program is headed up by a director, and these are part-time, as I indicated, individuals who work obviously to serve lunches to students and staff. Next slide. This is what our current building staff looks like in each of our buildings, including the directors and or principals, the administrators at each building, the number of professional staff. Those are not just classroom teachers, but all of our professional staff members like school psychologists, OT, PT, SPED teachers, our clerical staff, our instructional aides, all of whom are special ed, which means that we currently have no general ed aides who support classroom teachers. Every single aide, instructional aide, is someone, an individual who either is assigned to a program, a student, or multiple students. So this district a few years back, it's my understanding, eliminated any classroom aides for classroom teachers. In addition to that, you'll see our clerical staffing and our custodial staff. So we have a total of 7 FTE administrators in this district, a coffee director. There are 2 administrators at the high school. Last year there were 3. This year there are 2, a high school principal and assistant principal. OMS and Barton share a district-wide assistant principal. So that is something that certainly is concerning for a lot of people, given the number of students at the middle school, but currently we share that. And we have one administrator at Chafee. Okay. This is our student enrollment. These numbers are based on the October 1st, what we call the October 1st data that we submit and required to submit to the state, to the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. You'll notice a couple of things that are interesting about these numbers. If you look back in October of 2016, which would have been our FY17 budget season compared to this past fall, we had a decline of 45 students in enrollment in pre-K 1 school, Chafee. Part of that may be due to the anomaly that we had a very small class in kindergarten this year. That's not typical of what we've seen. We had 105 students to begin our year. We typically run a class of about 130, it's my understanding. We'll see what happens next year. So part of that decline certainly is reflected in the fact that we have a lot fewer number with respect to our kindergarten students this year. We'll see whether that's a pattern. We also see a decline of 34 students in Barton, but the numbers go up at the middle school and at the high school. So these are the numbers reflected. I have included for you so that you know the number of students that we educate who are out of district, 20 last year, 24 this year, and our students who are part of our coffee program. These are all of our Oxford Public School students that we educate. So that number is really a little bit of a decrease, but primarily it seems to be reflected at the elementary level. I will say that across the state, there seems to be a trend in seeing population decline. Whether or not that remains, I think, is something that down the road we'll see. But NESDEC forecasting, NESDEC is the group that does a lot of this forecasting for the next 5 years. They have indicated that there seems to be a trend or a pattern for declining enrollment in public schools. Next slide. Special education, which is certainly an integral part of our program. The number of students currently that we have in out-of-district are 24. The number of students in in-district programs that we service are 260 students for a grand total of 284. We have some fabulous programs in district. At the elementary level, we have 2 programs, our SHINE program, which is an autistic program, our ANCHOR program, which is an emotional behavior delayed program. At the middle school, we currently have a program called LIGHT, which is an autistic program that will be evolving a little bit next year and changing because of the dynamics of the students who are coming up from grade 4. At the high school level, we run 3 programs. Our CUP program, which is a program for students between the ages of 18 to 22. Our Lifeways, which is a cognitive delay program. And currently we have a program for medically fragile students called Project Success. When you can create programs in-house, I think it's critical that a district try to do that. Because although many students certainly have the level of needs of services where we cannot provide the program in-house, but where you can do that, you certainly eliminate the need to transport a student, sometimes almost an hour one way, to find the program that's appropriate. So I'm very proud of the fact that this district has been able to create these programs, and working with Dr. Hendershon, we're looking to make sure that we are ahead of the gap, ahead of the need for students as they transition and move from one grade to another. So the school committee in October, I asked them, what is the charge from the school committee with respect to developing the budget? What kind of a budget do you want us to develop? There are multiple layers of budgets that you can develop. Their charge to us, and as the administrative team, was to develop 2 budgets, to show us the cost for a level services budget, which simply means that when you open the door next year, as I indicated, there would be no level services budget, no new personnel, but we wouldn't add anybody, but we wouldn't eliminate anybody either. It would provide for the continuation of the same level of services. Now within that, certainly we can make adjustments particularly in the areas of SPED when programs shift. No advancement, however, when you have a level services budget of any of the goals that I articulated early on. There isn't necessarily funding to do some of the things that you need to do to increase rigor, to increase resources, to increase staffing, particularly for intervention resources. In many districts, as teachers who are sitting in the audience know, we've been able to add interventionist staff members who can help support at-risk students at early ages, and we don't necessarily have that luxury in this district. A level services budget would simply provide for the same level of services next year with no reductions. They also asked us to show them what a level funded budget would look like if there was not support from the community for a level services budget. What would have to be reduced? What would be your recommendations for the reductions? And the administrative team met individually at budget meetings with the members of the school committee, reviewed from their perspective what they would recommend if we had to reduce the budget, to come up with a figure that would close the gap should the town not fund us at a level service. As all of you know, a level funded budget represents reductions in staff, reductions in programs, and reductions thus in services to students. So let's move on. This is a pie chart, important to note. So what makes up a school department budget? To no surprise, most school department budgets are made up of staff, because staff, we are in a service business. We provide services to students. That's our job. Somewhere between 70 to 80% of a school district's budget is made up of staffing and costs for staffing, i.e. salaries. In this district, it's 73.88% of your budget is staff. So when people start talking about, well, why are we reducing staff? Because quite frankly, that's the only place you have to go. The other pieces of this budget that constitute almost 89% total are our special ed services for tuitions and transportation, as well as our contractual services and supplies. Along with gen ed transportation, 89% of our budget, a little over 89%, 89.42% is constituted by those four categories. So that's salaries, SPED cost, as well as gen ed transportation. So when you talk about reductions, there are some areas that are mandated that you cannot reduce. And so you have not an easy task when you have to go back and look at the central area, which is salaries. And that's basically, in any level funded budget, that's basically what happens, and those are the decisions that you have to make. The rest of the budget is made up of small percentages: utilities, professional development, legal, technology. There are minor percentages ranging from 0.33 to 2.27 to make up the remaining 10%. Okay, next slide. Indirect cost is something that I don't know that it's been discussed a lot in budgets, but it's important to point out that there's a cost for doing business. They're called indirect costs. They're costs that a town or a city assesses a school district, and there are major categories. I'm comparing the indirect costs between FY19 and FY18. When I talk about indirect costs, these are part of the total budget. While we don't receive them in a direct way, they are part of the services. So they're employee benefits. They're benefits for people who retired from Oxford Public Schools, as well as benefits for all of us, all of you who currently have health insurance. So that's what we mean by employee benefits and insurance. The administration and operation and maintenance and school assessments are other components. There are some shifts in those between last year and this year. You'll see that the figure for next year is anticipated to be $5,567,567,000 and some change, if you will. compared to 5.7 million. The difference between that, just so that the community is aware, is made up of a shift in electricity charge. Prior to this time, for next year, $236,000 has been moved into the budget figure, out of indirect cost into our budget figure that the town is moving forward to approve. So it's somewhat misleading when you see the amount of money that the town is putting forward next year to support us. Just keep in mind that $236,000 of that figure has already been spoken for. It's the electrical cost. It's part of the electrical cost. It simply was moved out of indirect cost, and that's where you see that difference, into the operating budget. So I just don't want people to think when they see the amount of money that the town is providing, while it certainly is welcome, I just want people to bear in mind that $236,000 of that goes to support electrical costs next year. Transportation. This includes both the cost for transportation for general ed students and SPED students. So this is a combined cost. Currently, we estimate that our transportation would take a 5% increase. Currently, we have no contract at the end of this year with our current provider. That is that we needed to go out to bid, which we have done, and the school committee will be asked this evening to take a vote on a bid that has come through. We are estimating our cost at $1.477, $1,477,177. That represents a 5% increase. Am I correct? 5, and it includes restoring the late buses for next year. However, the school committee will be hearing me say this evening that the second bid that we opened this last week is a 20% increase. So we do not have that in the budget. That reflects about another $129,000. If we cannot get that down, then obviously that means somewhere I need to find next year $129,000 before we begin our year. The town appropriates a percentage of that. Last year, it was $1,160,566. Based on that figure, the difference is $311,000, or in essence, the town is funding about 79% of transportation. And that includes both, as I said, general transportation and SPED. The important point to this is, unfortunately, we are in a contract year, and as the school committee knows, and we've already asked you to reject the first bid, which was even higher. The percentage was higher than that, and we're going to ask you to take some action this evening. But that is one of the budget unknowns that we currently have. We have not projected anything above a 5% increase, so how we find the additional funding, if moving forward by the end of the school year, we do not have a bid that comes in lower than that, is something that they'll, I'm sure, direct me to go back and figure out how we do that. So just as an important consideration. Special education costs. So when we talk about special education cost, that includes areas such as salaries for all of our employees who are members of, our teachers are part of, delivering special education services, our out-of-district tuitions, our in-district tuitions, consultants, contractual services. Those are all part of the cost. What you'll see over the 3-year period is that an escalation in these costs. The difference in FY17, we had a budget of $3,721,105. Please note that that figure represents the fact that figure is representative after we applied circuit breaker funds, and so we noted the offset. So you would increase that number if we did not have circuit breaker funds to apply to that. So every year a school district receives an amount of money that we call circuit breaker. It is something that the state provides to us based on a formula, and it is meant to help offset some of those extraordinary costs and relief in special ed that have happened over the years. Between FY17 and FY18, our budget increased. The increase between the two represents a little under $400,000 between the 2 years. We were able to offset that, and that figure again was offset by using circuit breaker from FY17 and 18. The law allows you to use circuit breaker over a 2-year period. This district, prior to my coming on board, rolled over some money, had circuit breaker left in FY17, but just note that that figure is after the offset of $519,000. We estimate that next year the cost for all of these services in special ed will be $4,648,200. That represents obviously an increase of over last year. And we are hopeful at this point in time that we have said to the school committee that we are hopeful that we will have $403,000 to offset that. The school committee and I and the senior accountant feel comfortable that that figure, 403, will help offset that. And again, that takes into account all of the changes that we have reflected or know through March 1st. So in our meetings with the PPS director, there certainly are unknowns that can occur between now and April 1st, and there are certainly unknowns that can occur between now and the end of the school year. The difference being in that if it happens between now and April 1st, we own that cost for next year. After that, the sending district owns it. However, any changes that happen with our students already in district this year, between now and the end of the year, we have factored those in to the best of our ability as of March 1st. So any other changes with students we already have that we would be making based on needs and programs and all of that, certainly we would not have that now to share with you. This represents roughly 22% of our budget. So when you look at that and you combine indirect costs and then you look at everything else, that constitutes your entire budget. Next slide. This is what circuit breaker funding looks like in this district. It's one of those arguments that as superintendents of school we have argued since the law changed many years ago. We are a public institution. We, under the law, should educate all of the students that we have who attend our schools. We are required to do that, and I believe that every superintendent of schools that I know would say to you that that is our job and that is our duty and we should be doing that. However, the problem has been that when the law changed at the federal level, unfortunately, funding never changed to the point to support public schools in particular with keeping up with the pace of the law with respect to special ed. And many of you are aware of that. This is the history of circuit breaker for this district. In FY18, we got some extraordinary relief to the tune of $88,000. That's for students whose costs are over 125%. And it's a process that we have to submit to receive that. It's not something that you receive every year, and it's really a pretty arduous process. But I want to point out what I provided at the very bottom of this slide, that circuit breaker is one of, not the only, one of the main funding streams from the state and from the federal government and those agencies to help offset, that was the purpose of circuit breaker, the growing cost of special education in school districts, not just in Massachusetts, but certainly across the country. There has always been concern, while we are able and willing and we can create programs for students, the problem that we have had over the history of this is that we have not received funding streams that are adequate to do that. In addition, however, to those funding streams, I would note that one of the intents of Chapter 70 was to support school districts. Chapter 70 is funding that goes to the town that then comes funneled to the schools. And so when we talk about net school spending was never intended to be the maximum in a school district. It was meant to be, under ed reform, the minimum that a school district should, at the very least, support. But net school spending was never meant to be maximum. And unfortunately, over the years, I think that has oftentimes been something that we hear in school districts from those who sit on the town side, that they're giving us what they're required to give. And as we know, required is not maximum. It is minimum. It is minimum. The law requires that. IDEA is another form, and certainly Medicaid reimbursements, which again are a formula that we have to, and a funding formula that we are required to submit. That funding stream in this district gets channeled back through our general funds to support us. So given that fact, what is it that we would need in a school district for next year? What is, what's the number for a level? You go into the next slide. Well, lost control. Norman.
That's so sad that it won't work.
That's what I said too.
It had a technical difficulty.
Boom, there it is.
Oh, here we
Got
go. Okay. I think you're one up. All right.
More money.
So you're ahead. Justin, you need to go one back, I believe. There you go. Okay. So here's what it would take for this school district to have a level services budget. And remember, level services is you open the door next year with all of the current staff, services, and programs that you currently have. This district would need $18,014,341. Last year, the town appropriated $16,879,648 at its annual town meeting. The difference between that number from last year and the number that we need for this year is a little over $1 million, as the number indicates. Please note that the level services budget that we're showing the town also includes an offset, assuming that we will have $403,000 left over of circuit breaker, FY18 circuit breaker, that we can apply. If that number changes in any way, then obviously we need to go back and look at that. But we have already applied that. Again, I feel confident at this point in time that that number is a good number to use. So, okay. The town recommended that they could support $17,479,976. That represents an increase over their figure from FY18 of $600,328. Bear in mind that I indicated that $236,000 of that is an electrical cost that was moved from an indirect cost into our operating budget. So you can subtract the difference from that and get the number that really is what I call additional or new money. All right. The increase represents the $17,479,000 when you back out the $236,000 represents a 2.16% increase over the FY18 figure that was voted at the town meeting. Overall, the $600,000 represents 3.56, but bear in mind again that $236,000 has already been spoken for. So the budget gap is $534,000, a little over $534,000, $534,365, that we would need to reduce if the town does not and is unable to fund the $18 million. Okay. So that budget gap represents the difference between the 1,134,693, which is that level services additional cost minus the 600,600,328 that the town has said they can give us. They've recommended that gap comes from the difference between those two figures. And so what you'll see this evening is what the school committee had asked us to do, which was to prepare two budgets, a level services budget, and then to show us what would you reduce, what would have to be reduced based on the work that you've done over the last 3 or 4 or 5 months, starting back in October. What would those reductions look like? And that's what I will share with you this evening, and what I've already shared with those departments and unions who will be impacted. So, next slide. Okay. Just wanted to share before we get into this what our capital projects requests are. Back in the fall, the school committee prioritized a number of capital project requests. Those included and were prioritized in accordance with needs. They deal with the high school and replacing the water heater and 5 burners as priority number 1. Priority number 2 was to replace the burners. Those of you who are teachers at OMS know that the heat can be up and down and so forth. So replacing the burners and the boilers over there. At Chafee School, priority number 3 was the HVAC controls. And priority number 4 has to do with carpeting that many of you live with on a daily basis in Barton, Chafee, and OMS, in particular in our elementary libraries and in the middle school in the front office. It also included such things as resurfacing the high school track, something that has been on the list for a number of years, and the technology initiative to bring that initiative down to grades 7 and 6. These are not all on next year's list, but they are over a series of years. As of our meeting with the town manager, it appears that $59,000 will be recommended as a capital via indirect costs, and that $59,000 should cover priority 1 and 2. And if you look at those combined costs, you'll see that it doesn't equal $59,000 and think that we did some incorrect math. That's because some of these areas in both the water heaters and burners have already had to be worked on. So the estimate from our facilities people on the town side are that the $59,000 should cover those two, but none of the others are listed for next year, all right, as capital requests. So. I want to talk a little bit about the impact of the level funded budget. What would that mean? Justin's changing batteries at this point, so I'll hold on for a minute.
Well, you want to continue just manually? I think most people do have
Okay.
something in there.
This, let me just point out one thing. Both this presentation and the presentation that we made last week will be on our website tomorrow. So in case anyone in the public wants to see this in particular, as we talk about the impact of a level funded budget, I wanted to make sure that you're aware of it. So the next slide that I had in this presentation shows the impact of projected class sizes. So based on the fact that we would need to reduce our budget by over $500,000, what would that impact look like in classrooms? And again, these are estimates based on the numbers we have now, the numbers that we're projecting based on our present students. What we don't know is what move-ins look like over the summer. So, based on that, we see that currently in this year, our kindergarten classes are around 17 to 18 students. We project that those would move to around 21 or 22, and primarily that's based on the fact that we believe, at this point in time, that 130 students, which is the normal number, will come next year. Now, obviously, we can't project that. We have census information. As many of us know, that's not always accurate. And until they walk through the door, sometimes last minute, you may see a swing of 10 to 12 students in kindergarten. So our projection is that those numbers will go back to what appears to be more normal for the number of students that we have seen in the past at kindergarten. In grade 1, that would be our incoming, of course, kindergarten students, that low number. Currently, grade 1 is at 21 to 24 students. We project that will be around 21 because, again, just as a reminder, that's our kindergarten low class of 105. So that's kind of a one-year gift, and we don't think that that's going to be the norm as we move forward. At Barton School in grade 2, we currently have a range of 25 to 27. Now, these numbers come from principals back in the fall. So they were projecting these as we were doing our budget initial discussions. So those may have changed a little bit. We project next year that the numbers could be at 23 in grade 2. Grade 3, 20 to 24. This year, we project next year could be at 26. Grade 4, 25 to 26. We project that number could be around 26 next year. So you can see some swing upward, obviously, in grades 3 and 4. At OMS, we only looked at the core subject areas. It's very hard to forecast across all of the specialized subjects because there's such large swings. So we were looking at English, math, history, and science, 5 through 7 combined look, not looking at each grade, but just an average. Currently, we have a range of 21, a low class number, to 26.5. We project that those numbers, based on any a level funded budget, could go to 24 to 32. And then at the high school level, again, looking at the core subjects, also including foreign language, which is obviously offered at the high school, our numbers range from 16 to 26, could go from 19 to 31. So one of the impacts when you have reductions, obviously, class sizes are going to increase, and we will see that happen really to some degree across the board. So what are the reductions? Over the last 4 or 5 months, we have gone back and forth with ourselves as part of the district administrative team and the building principals and directors who I charged with looking at and recommending reductions to get to that $534,000 figure. Our reductions actually are $550,000, equal that. The school committee is well aware. We've been meeting with them. Each of the building principals and directors presented what their reductions would have to look like. We prioritized those. This is an iterative process, and we have gone back through this a number of times. And I would say that there is not a single member of the school committee, if I might speak for them, and myself and the administrative team, who feels comfortable with any of these reductions. The reality is we need to be prepared. But there is not a single member who didn't agonize as they presented. They will tell you their budgets initially, and we went back and forth over these. And as the school committee members sat at those meetings and had to look at this and see the impact and talk about that. And we did talk about the rationale and the impact. None of these cuts are good cuts. None of these reductions, because they are staffing reductions, and there are a total of 7 professional staff. When you add that with last year, which I'll show you in a slide, you have in this district cut 12.7 staff over 2 years, professional staff. And that will be a continual theme, unfortunately, that will happen each year. So we're looking there will be 3 positions at the high school. I would caution everyone that these are positions and not people. We shouldn't be associating a person to this. We will be reducing the guidance department by 1 at the high school, reducing a math teacher at the high school, and we will eliminate the STEAM teacher at the high school. If you look down for a moment, you will see that we are eliminating 2 STEAM teachers two STEM teachers, at the middle school. So in essence, when I talk about reductions and I say it's personnel, programs, and services, we are eliminating a program. We are eliminating a science, technology, engineering program at the middle and high school. That pathway will no longer exist for our students. We are not going to fill department head positions at both the high school and the middle school at this point in time for next year. At the middle school, as I mentioned, there are two positions that we will be eliminating. Those are the STEM position. Our reductions amounts are based on an average teacher salary of $65,000. If any of those should change, then we need to change that number, and that means we have to go back to the drawing board. But when we use that, it's based on an average, but not on a particular individual. And that's one of the issues that we have. But it's an average salary based on what we know of the staff that we have, just so that the public knows that it could be a swing one way or the other. Next slide. At Barton School, Barton and Chaffey share a health teacher, a 0.5 in each building. It's a 1.0 position. We are eliminating health. In essence, it's a program. It's in addition to physical education. Physical education is part of the health wellness. We have been fortunate to be able to have a health teacher at the elementary level, elementary levels. That program, if you will, again, a reminder, would be eliminated as we know it. We are also making a reduction at the Barton School of a support position, and that's our .375 secretarial position. Currently, they have 1.375 positions at Barton. They have the same figure at Chaffey. We will be eliminating both of those positions, so each school will have one full-time school year secretary. As I indicated under Chaffey, the health position is a shared position between both buildings. That position would be eliminated. And at this point in time, unfortunately, we have to add an elementary teacher to the mix, and that's a elementary teacher in grade 1 at Chaffey. Again, this is really what I would consider a one-time thing that you can do, because we again anticipate that the number is relatively small in kindergarten, unless you have a lot of move-ins in grade 1 next year, and then that changes everything. And that completes the buildings at Coffey, which is our special education program for our students who are at high school and also some students who are at upper middle school. We are reducing the discretionary budget by approximately $13,000 and some change, and the additional reduction is a reduction in the work year for the secretary at Coffey, who is currently a full year employee and who will go to a school year employee. So those reductions total $550,000, a little over $550,000, almost $551,000. That's a little bit over the $534,000. The school committee has asked that should we, if we were able to reinstate any positions, because we have additional circuit breaker monies that would be left between now and the end of the school year, that we would look to reinstate in priority the grade 1 position first, and then the department head positions. They have concerns, as I do, that these are obviously needed positions. And again, let me reiterate, there is not a single member of the school committee or the administrative team who feels that any of these are positions that we want to cut, because we are eliminating programs. And once that happens, typically you will not get programs back. That will not happen. Next slide. So I wanted to show the 2-year trend so that people could see what the school department has been asked to do in the last 2 years and what we anticipate will happen if we do not have support for a level services budget. Over the last 2 years, you've eliminated an administrative position. You've eliminated 12.7 professional staff. You've eliminated 3.0 instructional assistants, as well as some support staff in special ed, and we will be reducing clerical hours. We've also eliminated and made reductions, as the school committee knows, because they've received a number of complaints in Gen Ed transportation with the elimination of the late bus. So all of these add up to, next slide, a total of over $1 million in 2 years, meaning last year and what we anticipate will have to happen if we do not have a level services budget. This is a disturbing trend, and it is unfortunate that in the next few years, unfortunately, I think this town is at a crossroads where they are going to have to make a decision as to what they want to support. Whether or not the town is willing to support the fact that on a year-to-year basis, you are going to need to have an increase certainly over 2.16% and certainly over 3.56% for you to continue to have a level services budget and to have the quality of services that you currently have. We're not talking about anything. This is not an educational needs budget. This is not an additional needs budget. This is simply a level services budget. Next. So here are the consequences that I wanted to point out, and I think it's important for everyone to understand. These are short and long term, that you have already seen some of these consequences, so I am not saying this to any of the school committee members or even some of the people who are in the audience or who are watching this evening on TV. You will obviously have larger class sizes. That goes without saying. There will be fewer or no new programs. We've already indicated that we're cutting programs in essence. We're cutting the health program at the elementary level with this. We're cutting the STEM and STEAM program at the middle and high school level. We will have fewer instructional resources. We have just begun the task of developing a multi-year instructional resources plan. And I'll be meeting with all of the administrators in the next few weeks to look at those costs. And we'll bring them forward to the school committee. And I believe they will be somewhat extraordinary when you see the needs, the real needs. We're not talking about anything that's pie in the sky. We're talking about ensuring that all students have equal access to resources. And when we don't have that, it is my opinion that we need to ensure that that happens. And at the very least, we need to make sure that the public is aware that we may not have funding to do that. So it goes without saying that we are going to, unfortunately, have to look at instructional resources and not be able to probably build the momentum that we need to support what are real needs for instructional resources in this district. There will be less individualized support time for at-risk students. There's no question about that. As you reduce staff, you have larger class sizes, and therefore teachers are unable to necessarily do the same level and deliver the same level of service if you have a class that has 20 students as opposed to 26 students. There'll be less personalized learning time, less enhancement and extension of learning opportunities for students who are at the other end of the spectrum, fewer adult mentors for students. We at many times are the most important resource that a student sees all day. And when we lay off staff, there are less adults for students to meet with, to talk to share their concerns. There will be fewer resources for us to discuss the rising issue around social and emotional needs of students. More and more learners come into your rooms with severe emotional and social needs, and we are asked as educators to meet their needs. And when a budget is reduced, resources in professional development, in time, in consultants, and everything else, unfortunately, get reduced. All of that adds up to what I think happens in a lot of districts, certainly, and that is over a period of time, there's a loss of pride and respect for schools as the valued educational institutions that they are. And it's just common sense that if you continue to cut every single year, that at the end, this is the feeling that people get, all stakeholders. So the last slide really addresses the issue that I think is the elephant in the room, and that is, what's the quality of education that the community wants for students who attend Oxford Public Schools? I had the privilege of listening to this next gentleman, and there was a slide in his speech to us that always stuck with me as an educator. Many of you probably are familiar with Bill Daggett. He's a well-respected, well-known educator, leader, professional development provider, consultant. He is president of the International Center for Leadership and Education. And he made a statement once in one of the professional development seminars that I attended that has always stuck with me when we talk about education and the shifting parameters that we are faced with. He said, the world is changing, and as educators today, our call to global action is to prepare students for their future, not our past. And that's the reality. The shift of the type of learner that we have in public education, the mandates both on the federal and state level that we're required now to meet, all of those things come with a cost. And unfortunately, public schools in general have not been able to keep pace, in my opinion, with those costs. So the last slide really says we're at the crossroads. It's kind of on the road of excellence, or do you want to continue on the road of mediocrity? Because in essence, every time you slash a budget, you are continuing down that gradual descent into mediocrity. I have unfortunately had to, in many districts, talk about reductions every year, and it never becomes any easier for me as the superintendent, whether I'm an interim superintendent or a permanent superintendent, because what I generally see is that we never get back. We never regain the momentum, and we start to change that atmosphere of learning that we have in our district. And if we want to talk about exodus, and I would challenge people out there, they can talk about school choice, and you can talk about all the other things that you need in the school district. But at the very least, we know that we have to be given the appropriate tools, the appropriate funds for us to continue the journey. Teachers do the job, and they do it extremely well under all kinds of adverse conditions. I would challenge anyone to look at our FY19 budget and find $550,000 for us, because it is not there. It is not there. So I would say to the school committee, it is a very difficult job that you have. We have done the very best to prepare the reductions. And I, again, would end by saying there is not a single member of my administrative team back in the fall when we started this, and we started with figures that were much higher than this. I can tell you that our numbers have come down, albeit small, with the number of reductions that we are recommending have to be made to get to close that budget gap. But as the committee knows, we started with 9, 10, potentially 11 reductions in professional staff. That doesn't make it any easier. So I'll end my presentation, and certainly if the school committee members want to ask any questions, I know that you have heard a similar presentation already last week, so you may not have questions, or you may. So.
Well, the first thing I'd like to do is open up the floor to public comment. If we could, anybody that's willing to come up, please state your name. Keep your comments to, let's try to be under 2 minutes in case we do have a lot of people that would like to speak. Please identify yourself for the people at home, and hopefully we can answer your question. If we can't, we can certainly get you an answer. Mr. Peterson, it's always a pleasure to see you.
Are you sure?
Always is, Mac.
Mine won't take the 2 minutes, Mr. Spitz, but I appreciate the acknowledgement. Thank you to the committee. I have some grave concerns after serving with you for 24 years, Bill. And my only question is, a lot of people still call me at home and want to know who to contact, who to direct something to in writing. They're more intimidated than I am. I'll come here and ask you the questions when I want to, but who would they send them directly to you, Dr. Nash?
We can have everything go through the superintendent's office.
Okay.
Any questions they have at all, I'm sure they'd be happy to answer.
I've met
for
with her on
anybody.
some other issues and things, but I have to tell my wife that she doesn't have to throw anything at the TV. I'm going to be very polite and direct to the point, and I will direct my questions later on in writing. I have about 12, 15 of them, Mr. Spitz, that I will send to Dr. Nash or get them to her.
We look forward to your comments.
So with that said, is there a line, I got to commend you. This is, since I was on the committee, this is probably the best and easiest for the public to see and understand since Dr. Iverson. It's amazing what this is, but I still have some questions. And the line items I'd like to see, is there some way I can get a line item budget from someone from?
Yep. It's on our homepage already.
And I
But
would-
you can come in and we can
can't
give you a
print,
hard
put it
copy.
that way, because,
We can give you a hard copy, Mr.
okay,
Peterson, don't worry.
that's what I would
We
like
got one. Yep.
to reference and go over. So
Yep,
with that being
absolutely.
said, Mr. Spitz, it's nice to see you again, and I'll leave you
It's always a
alone.
pleasure, sir. Okay, who else do we have? Any other public comment? There's got to be somebody else with a comment. No? Okay. Well, that's cool. Any comments that you do have for the people at home and anything that you do think of, please address your questions and go right through the superintendent's office. I'm sure anything can be answered to you, and as they said, the budget, line by line, is available online for you to sit back and take your time and look at on the screen. And if you see something that we missed, trust me, we'd love to hear from you. We are looking for that $534,000, and we would, without a question of a doubt, prefer not to have a dollar cut off of what we've submitted here tonight. Anytime we cut, and it's been stated 2 or 3 times already tonight, you don't get it back. If you cut a program, I've been doing this for a few years, you don't see those programs return. And we have made some strides in town. We honestly have, and I think with the technology grant that we were given, that brought us into the 21st century in technology. I mean, it was the greatest gift the town could have given the school department. But this is to operate with. This is what we need to make sure that our children get the education that they deserve. And this really isn't the education they deserve. This is what we gave them this year. So we're not going to give them anything additional. We're not looking for anything additional. What we're looking for is just to maintain what we've achieved. And that's basically what this budget is. So without really beating a dead horse on it, because I think you all know how we feel about it, we're going to move on in the agenda. Any questions from the committee? I think you guys asked all those questions in many of the meetings that we've had over the past few months. So,
Yeah, okay, you have to officially close the hearing.
yep. So I'm going to close the public hearing as far as the comments go. We can open it back up at the end if you do think of anything. So that is closed. Now, recommended action. We've already voted on school choice. We need the budget certification for FY19. Dr. Nash, do you want to give us what your recommendation is for us to vote on tonight?
I think part of it might be a discussion that you may want to have first with respect to a proposed override. So I think before the committee votes to certify a budget figure, the decision needs, some discussion probably would want to happen around.
And we can certainly do
override.
that, but I think what's important to say is that the override is a factor that can't yet be determined as far as the budget goes. I don't know if we can vote on this budget thinking that we're going to achieve an override. And I think that's where the problem for me lies with deciding what to vote on tonight with the budget. So why don't we do that? Why don't we take your recommendation, and I'm going to give this to you to take the Proposition 2.5 override little segment of it. And I think you have just a quick little blurb for everybody.
Yeah, I think that everybody is well aware of my feelings on the need for this town to have an override. It's something that I've said consistently since I joined this committee. And I think Dr. Nash, very eloquently described the needs of our community, that every year we're going to have an increase in order to just keep a level service budget. And if we don't have an override, and unfortunately, people have to face reality in this community, and I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I think that's kind of why I'm sitting here, to advocate for everybody and do so, because we have to go into our decisions with our eyes wide open, is that this is probably the first of many overrides. And the committee really has to think long and hard about looking at a figure of at least $600,000 to just get us to be a level service budget next year. That's not factoring in the increase in transportation that we've been presented with, at least, 20%. It could be, maybe around more 650,000, 660,000 if we were going to have to, entertain such a figure for transportation. If we do not have an override, we know and we can just be committed to in this community cutting 5 positions, at least, possibly 6, every year.
Okay, so we have before you a proposition override warrant article that will appear in the May 4th town meeting with a vote from us tonight. So I will ask for a motion to entertain a Prop 2.5 override warrant for the May 4th town meeting. Do I have a motion for that?
Motion.
And do I have a second? Can we
Second.
put that to a vote, please? Mrs. Day?
Yes.
Mrs. Forbes?
Yes.
Mrs. Griffin?
Yes.
I also vote yes, so that will be included.
Okay,
On the
so, may I ask, just for clarification purposes, I am going to assume, but I may not, may not be accurate, that we need to, of course, put a figure in.
Right.
But that figure would be the $600,328, which reflects the difference between what the town at this point in time has said that they can support, the $17,479,976, and what we have provided to you is the figure we need for a level services budget, which is the $18,014,341.
That is correct. That number's
So that
correct.
would be the figure that we would move forward.
Yes.
Is that, okay, okay.
So we need to go back to the budget certification. See, and this is where I have a problem. This is where I have the issues. Because we really should certify a budget tonight that reflects what we want to present to the town at the May 4th meeting. My recommendation is that we present a level-funded budget. What?
And level service.
Level service, I
budget.
apologize.
I don't want level,
Oops, sorry. I want a level service budget
okay, because a
proposed
level
to the town.
funded would be significant cuts.
And that's what we should certify tonight. Do we need to come back and make another decision at a later date? Probably. But I think what should be presented to the town on May 4th is the budget that we recommend for level services.
Right, and to do that, if
need
I
the
may,
override.
Mr. Spitz.
Yep, go right ahead.
We would have to inform the community that we need an override.
Well,
to
we've
close
already done
gap.
that.
Yeah, I'm
So
just
we
saying.
took step 1 based on their recommendation. So do we have a motion to approve that?
I'll make a motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Put it to vote. Mrs. Day?
Yes.
Mrs. Forbes?
Yes.
Mrs. Griffin?
Yes.
I also vote yes, so we're going to recommend to the town.
18,014.
Yep.
Yes.
341, okay,
Okay, so we good?
okay. So
Everybody
just
good? Yep.
For purposes of, so that the community and those are aware that we have a discrepancy between, obviously, what the school committee is moving forward to support and what the town at this point in time has indicated. So we will still have to move forward with our reductions because the town meeting is not until May 4th, and there are contractual deadlines that I need to meet and adhere to. So given that fact, unless, any union decides to amend those, I would still be moving forward with $534,000
That is
some
correct. You
change
have to.
reductions, notification, but with the hopes that things may change between now and town meeting, and then after that, the ballot. So,
Okay.
just as an FYI for everybody, okay, thank you.
Next, we have on recommended action, the international travel for the middle school. Want to come up again? We like seeing you, so come on up.
I don't have much to add. I did send you some off the record stuff I got today. I don't know so much about the one.
Yep.
I mean, everything is the same. We're just waiting for your approval so we can move forward. So, I mean, it is a summer program, so technically I don't think.
You don't really need our approval,
No,
but
but I'd like
it's
it.
better if you have
I
it.
would like it. That would be where I'm going with it. I'd like to be able to hold the kids to the same standards we're holding the high school kids for travel.
Yep.
But
Do we have any questions from the committee? I know there might be still a couple, or feelings from the committee. we do need to take action on this, though, so that they can, you got to set these motions in place in order for them to do it, because we are running out of time. Mrs. Griffin's point was that the policy committee needs to write an international travel policy, which we plan to do on our next meeting, which doesn't help you tonight.
No.
So we will definitely do that, so that we do include that, and we will expect you to follow that policy
Oh, absolutely.
once it is instituted by the committee. So, and you'll be the first to get the copy of that once we do it. Do we have a motion to approve the international travel trip tonight? You have a
Motion.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second?
Could we put that to a vote, please? Mrs. Day?
Yes.
Mrs. Forbes?
Yes.
Mrs. Griffin?
No.
Okay, and I vote yes. So it will go forward, but with the stipulation
Yes.
that you make sure that we're adhering to that policy when it comes out.
You know
And
me
we'll-
well enough to know that that will be done.
I do know that.
Yes.
So thank you very much.
Take that. Thank you. Thank you.
Next, for new business, we have signing warrants. We are electing a new member. We do have a volunteer. Mrs. Forbes has volunteered
God
to
bless you.
sign all those warrants every week. Because basically what we do is we elect one member that actually physically has to go into the central office and go through every one of the warrants and approve them and sign them, and that's what we read for our minutes and for all the warrants you see, payroll and everything else. But we get copies of them every week, but one person has to physically sign them when we vote it that way. So we have a volunteer. Do anyone else like to volunteer to do that? I know Mrs. Day just spent the last year doing it. So I think she's pretty much done with that. I personally would like to nominate Mrs. Forbes to do the position. Everybody okay with that?
I second, yep.
Do we have a second?
Yep.
Okay. Can we put that to a vote, please, Mrs. Day?
Yes.
Mrs. Forbes?
Yes.
Mrs. Griffin?
Yes.
I also vote yes. Congratulations. You can now
Thank
sign your
you.
life away.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for doing that.
Okay, next, why don't we
Thank you,
jump right
Cassandra.
to the business office, Mr. Ledoux?
Thank you. All right, the first item that I have for you is the budget to actual report ending February 28th. There's no areas at this time of concern for the end of February. We did have a fairly mild winter through February, however, March has been a little bit different. But I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Now, can I tell you, this really is so easy for me to use we get a copy of this sent to us the week before the meeting, and so we get to sit there and kind of go through the whole thing ahead of time. And it used to be a very difficult process, but Mr. Ledoux has made it so that people like me can read it without a problem, and does a great job with it, so thank you for your work on that.
Thank you.
Any questions from the committee on that? Okay, so
All
we
right.
also have the year-end audit report.
Correct. Next up is the year-end audit report for fiscal 2017. The town had engaged with Roselli and Clark, that auditing firm, to come out and review our finances, our federal grants, everything that's done in the normal course of the audit. One highlight I would like to point out is part of the single audit concerning the federal grants. This firm has deemed that all prior year findings have been corrected.
Nice.
So this year, for 2017, we ended with 0 findings on our federal grants, and that's
That's great.
due to-
That's huge for us. It really is.
So I'd like to thank the business office, the SPED office, and of course yourselves for adopting our policy and procedural manual that has helped up and given us the path of how we're supposed to handle these things. So thank you. The only other thing on the end of year report audit that was a repeat finding was the lack of an indirect cost agreement with the town. So I am in the process of drafting that now. And previously, we had piecemealed a few agreements which address the scope of services and the cost assessed to the district. Now, after researching this a little bit, this speaks to just reporting, the reporting piece of it. So this is what we are reporting that the town has put towards the school on our behalf, if that makes sense. For example, the employee benefits and things of that nature. So again, this is just an agreement for the reporting piece of it, not the scope of services and what we're actually assessed.
When will that be ready?
I have a draft ready now, if you'd like to review it.
Could you send me a copy of that?
Absolutely.
All of us, please.
All of us?
We can bring it actually and put it on as a topic at the next
That'd be
meeting.
great.
Certainly.
So I think it's something worth discussing.
Good,
So let's
very
put it on
good,
as a
thank you.
topic.
So I'll be happy to answer any questions about the audit report. I think it was very positive this time around as compared to last year.
No, it
Definitely.
definitely was.
Right.
And then we also have are you going to handle the general transportation vote?
And lastly, I'm going to ask for your vote to reject the bid that we had received for general ed transportation starting next year. The latest bid we had received, now this was a collective bid with Leicester, as you're aware. It came down slightly from the last time, but we're still at 19% of an increase over this year's current budget. So I'm going to recommend that you.
Aren't we
please
running out of
reject
time, though? How
We
much
have to
time do we
July
have?
I
1st.
believe we can turn another one around in about
You think we can?
3 to
Yes.
4
3
weeks.
to 4 weeks.
Definitely.
Yeah,
We have to.
We have to. I mean, that's not an option, right?
Correct.
Or our kids are all going to be walking.
correct. But at this
I
point,
don't
given
think that works that way, but.
the budget presentation tonight, I would recommend that we
Okay.
reject this and go out on third
I
time.
think if I might just, one, we obviously will have to accept and award a bid eventually. We had the discussion with Leicester, Leicester School Committee meeting is tomorrow night. We are not aware what they are going to do, whether they will ask us to separate and to put out our bids individually. So we're going to have a conference call with Leicester and with the planning, the CMPC, whatever, with them on Wednesday to determine, and then we'll go back out. The concern we have is that it represents almost a 20% increase. As we indicated to you, we have a 5% increase in our budget. I have done anecdotally and had conversations last week at a SHWEC meeting with the area superintendents to get a handle on what the increases have been, either for this year or for upcoming years. The low of 0% in 1 year, to 6% have been the increases in towns such as Sutton, Auburn, Webster, Dudley Charlton. I might be missing one, but that was I asked them collectively at the meeting, can you tell me if you've settled a contract in the last year or so, what have been those increases for the next few years? So this is exorbitant, and this reflects some concerns that all of us who have been part of this process have raised around the fact that we have attempted to collaborate with other towns to try to get a bid that may represent some kind of better cost because of that collaboration. It is apparent that that is not happening. So that is a big question mark that one would ask when all of the area towns are getting bids that are within a 0 to 6%. And we, when we attempt to do what might appear to be a process that would make sense, collaborate, we do that in cleaning supplies and other ways, that we would get an increase of 19%. So my question is, who is holding the school district hostage? And I will end it at that.
I think we know. Could we have a motion to reject the bid?
I will entertain a motion to reject
We
the
have a
bid.
second?
Second.
Okay, very good. Can we put this to a vote, please? Mrs. Day?
Yes.
Mrs. Forbes?
Yes.
Mrs. Griffin?
Yes.
I also vote yes. The vote is rejected. But please get us one.
Great, thank
We're
you very
trying.
much.
That's kind of scaring me a little bit.
Well, that's
Okay.
Not
their
scaring
plan.
me.
That's their plan.
I think that
No, no,
is the
no.
plan, yes.
Yep.
Okay.
That is the plan.
Okay, Dr. Nash,
All
you're
right.
up again.
Thank you.
You've been really busy tonight.
The committee had asked last meeting that I update you on a meeting that we were about to have with some technology around school safety. So I provided you with some information. I'm going to make this very brief. Last week, or 2 weeks ago, this coming Friday, we held a meeting with a company out of, I believe it's Waltham, it's out of Massachusetts, called Enforce Protecting What Matters. It actually bridges the gap. It's a real-time communication system between our staff and the authorities in town. So be it the police department, fire department, EMTs, and so forth. It is one of those things that you hope you will never use. It's primarily a quick response time based on the fact that what studies have shown, in accordance with what Enforce has provided us with, is that when we have an intruder in a school building, in a school district, that if you can reduce the time that your officials, your police, fire, EMTs can respond, that you particularly, or potentially, I should say, could mitigate the loss of life. And so what 911 does, it's really what it's called a real-time communication system. It is an app that you can put on any device, any of the devices certainly that we have in our buildings. And it will help to bridge that gap by making the communication to the potential police department and so forth in less than 15 seconds. It provides an opportunity. The maximum time is 15. It provides an opportunity to provide some information, but it's what we kind of call the panic button that you hope you will never use, quite frankly. It is part of what we see as a comprehensive hybrid safety and security systems. We have enhanced, as you know, the number of walkie-talkies that we have in the district to 58. We will be moving forward with a repeater system to ensure that we're able to have communication when you have those walkie-talkies. But this is another potential way that teachers, staff members, administrators can silently launch an alert by simply clicking on an icon on an app from any device that they have. As I said, it is a system that I happened to see after, unfortunately, the incident at Parkland. We had at our meeting the chief of police, our resource officer, Justin, and Mr. Cady, who heads up our communication for both our town and our school district. It is in use in many, many, many area towns, as well as in some states. It's kind of a statewide initiative. We are not about to recommend anything to you at this time. We hope to have another meeting with a competitor, and then moving forward, we certainly may bring something back to you. There is some potential that we would be able to use some of the grant funding that we currently have, but we need to look to see what the quote will be when we come back with the antennas and the repeater system for the middle and high school that we sorely need, so that when you have a walkie-talkie and you are somewhere in the building, that you're able to communicate. We do think that this is another avenue, unfortunately, that we need to add in our repertoire of keeping staff and students safe. This is really for the intruder in the building. This is an enhanced system for that.
I don't think that there's any question that we should have another layer to our system. So I look forward to you getting us that second bid. In front of you, you all have one bid that was given to us for this system. And I think the sooner we can do it, the better. I really think this should be on the next meeting if we can.
We don't, we haven't set up the date yet. We're working out the details. It appears right now that we've got, we're trying to make sure that all of those who were there last time are there again. Just so that you know, the public knows, this doesn't come cheap. We're looking at an annual cost that could be minimally $10,000 a year. But if you say one life, does anyone put a number on a life?
I'm totally for it.
So that is an annual cost. Again, that's a rough number based on what I gave you. Certainly, we'll wait to see, but more and more, unfortunately, there's a need to probably have real-time communication and hope that you never have to use that. So that's the update on that.
Great.
Okay.
All right, next on the agenda?
Yes.
We're going to let you get involved
Wow.
with this one again.
Okay, I'm going to give you an overview, and I know Mr. Maisley has been patiently, Mr. Peterson. has
Mr.
been
Maisley,
here.
why don't you come on
Come
up?
on. I know. So let me give some background for those members of the audience who are here this evening, and also for the school committee as a reminder.
We need another chair. Drag another one over there, yeah.
And then I certainly will turn it over to the individuals who are here.
First of all, welcome.
I wanted to just update the committee before so that you have the context of why I invited Mr. Maisley and family representatives here this evening and friends to talk to you. As you are well aware, we suffered a tragic loss over the summer, and it's unfortunate that I only got to meet your brother as he was retiring. And the community, I think, recognized this individual in many ways, and certainly I'm sure will continue to do so over the years that follow. But in some small part, I brought forward to you initially the ability to recognize Commander Maisley by naming a wing in the school after him. As you are aware, within a short period of time after your discussion and your decision, the Board of Selectmen also honored Commander Maisley by moving forward the vote to name the new pavilion, which is being built, we can't see it, but right out here, after Commander Maisley. What I hadn't done, and I know I apologize to the Mr. Maisley and Joel, is to meet with them ahead of time. And I take that responsibility to have that discussion prior to my bringing anything forward to the committee. And so I wanted to involve the Maisley family and representatives and Master Chief Youngsman and Captain Knight, and Mr. Peterson was here also, and Justin and Dr. Henry, to an initial meeting probably a month ago now to talk about the decisions that were made. The town manager was also at that, since certainly both groups have named something after him. And to talk about the selection of the tributes, and in particular, the appropriateness of those selections. Now, I can't speak to the town, I can only speak to the schools. And I would share with you that I think I understand the sentiments of the family, and particularly I know Mr. Maisley and Mr. Peterson, who are here this evening and can certainly speak to it, about our choice, and mine in particular because I recommended it probably to you, around such things as visibility, remembrance, and impact that naming the wing would have. And they certainly can articulate more of that. So we discussed lots of options. We threw them out at the first meeting, and we certainly came back at the second meeting because I asked Mr. Maisley to go back and talk with the family a little bit and just get some thoughts. We had all kinds of things floating out there, from naming a school, to naming a drive, to naming a field. So we wanted to be, I think, something, if I can summarize, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but the concept of appropriateness. I mean, it was very broad-based. And what we, I think, at the last meeting, came up with some sense of where we would like to go, and that is that naming the field that we have out here. We did some research after the late commander, so the Commander Michael C. Maisley Memorial Field, or whatever one comes up. So I wanted, because I didn't have the opportunity to really know the impact of Commander Maisley, I wanted Mr. Maisley and his family and friends to talk about why that would be an appropriate thing to do, as opposed to anything else that you as a school committee have already decided. I can't again speak to the Board of Selectmen's decision. So did I capture that adequately or
Well, not to
appropriately?
interrupt you, but let me pop in there first just a little bit. I want to just explain to you that we were just excited to do something for him. And I think we all just kind of reacted to it and just went, yeah, that's a great idea, without really considering, what the family would like. So I think it's great that we're revisiting it and that we can do something that will satisfy everybody. Because, I mean, the guy, we all know who he was and what he did for the town and what he did for the school. So I don't think any of us really have a problem considering anything, taking away the wing vote and doing something more appropriate so that the family's also happy with it. Because I think that's important that you understand that we want that to be the case. So now you can take it away.
Okay. We kind of sat down, we kind of put it off for a while. We're still kind of in the fog. We can't believe that this happened. It's always a shock when it's unexpected. A lot of people have come forward with ideas, putting things together, so there was a ton of ideas out there. But we kind of just were trying to settle a little bit and think of all the different things that were proposed. And I know they even wanted to name the high school after him, which, that's a tough one because there's been so many good people and quality people that have put a lot of time and effort into the system here. But, we kind of looked at, what can we have that, like when we moved into town, looking at the different names that were around town and things that were named, we got to research it because I didn't know who Larned was. And, looking at the background of all these people, it was kind of neat to see how they impacted the community. So that's kind of what my brother and I talked about, and we talked, the families talked that. We wanted something that 20 years from now, who was this guy? We all know who he was and we'd like to have something, but I wanted to keep that memory alive of what he started, what he did, and who he was. So that's kind of how we kind of looked at putting something that would be not only exposed to the community of the school, but also to our community, and maybe even something further than that, central Massachusetts. Because he did extend even into the town and outside this community. He won the Green Award in Worcester. They acknowledged him for the work done not only in the town, but also within Central Mass itself. So looking at all of that, we thought, maybe the athletic field would be a fit. It would be exposed to the public. And even if they did district playoffs, his name would appear in the paper, and people would say, well, why was this name, why was this field named after this person? So kind of keeping his spirit alive. That's kind of how we looked at it. And there were a lot of great ideas. I mean, between the school, the middle school, the roadways, there was tons of mention. And I brought Mark on just to the meetings because he basically was probably, he actually was one of the school committee members that hired my brother. And he knows the whole history, so I kind of brought him so he could bring some of that history with him so that we can just,
He brings a lot of history with him.
Yeah.
Can you just
We
call
will
it
be there
TV?
soon, right? We'll all be in that boat pretty soon, so.
You're right.
Yeah.
Questions from the committee? Number one, I think it's a great idea, personally. I think that your thought process makes sense. And I think it's great that we do have something that instigates a conversation with people. Like, who was this guy? I mean, what did he do? Why did they name a field after him? So it does get people to think a little bit more about than if we name a wing after him. That really only the students will see that, and nobody really from outside of the town will see it. So I think that's a great suggestion.
And I think, too, I left out that, he was also a coach. So he coached the color guard primarily, but coached all the kids. And then also, for the Leadership Academy, the kids had to do athletic competitions. Those kids were out there at 5 o'clock in the morning on the
I know.
field with them. So, it kind of, that was a piece of it also, that, he did the color guard at all the games. That's where he did his practices. That's where he actually did a lot of work with the kids, too. So.
No, I thank you for that. So we'll certainly take that under advisement. Well, Mark, go right ahead.
Yeah, I'm not going to interfere with Joel. I'm basically, like you said, brought in as a consultant, and it's even hard for me to speak about this tonight. I'm not an emotional person, and you know that, Billy, but This man
I
was a
disagree, but go ahead.
this man was more of a brother to me that I never had. We're
No,
the same age.
I know you guys were close.
Same era. We were very tight with the family, but it's your decision. And we did screen a lot of people that have called us. I'm like Joel said, I'm the last one other than Debbie Moyles, and I can't find her. Left of the four that hired Commander, and worked extensively with him to promote the program in itself, because I don't know if you remember or not, the program was not readily accepted by the community for a couple of years, and we had to work hard.
And he did. Yep.
After we worked those 2 years, man, the thing just flourished, and being national for 17 years in a row. So it's your decision, and I'm only trying to help the Maisley family move some of this through the process, because like he said, Ruth and I even went back to our history books. Alan L. Jocelyn building is gone, and that school was named after him, and nobody even knows who he was 70 years later without going into the archives. We have a grave out here by the flagpole that probably nobody even knows is there. So we want it visible so that it will be remembered. So if anybody wants to know who Commander Maisley is, they can look it up in our next history books, which I'm sure all but long be gone before they're printed again. But I've said enough, but I can't say enough about the gentleman, and whatever we can do to the utmost, I would certainly appreciate.
Well, Mark, I think all of us that worked with him, I didn't work with him as extensively as you did, but I did for many years. And, you know, I had nothing but respect for him, and for the time. I mean, I'd go by here at 5 o'clock in the morning, his car was already here. I mean, and it was here at night when I come home from work. So, I mean, he was totally dedicated to the kids and to the town, and I think we all appreciate what he was, anybody that knew him. So, yeah, we definitely need to do something that fits him, that really will keep his memory going. And I think that was a great idea that we certainly will discuss, and really try to do something on that line with, instead of the wing. So
we're also holding off as far as any timeline for a dedication or anything, so you discuss and make your decision, and we'll work with you to.
Yep, no, and we will certainly, you'll be the first we tell.
Whatever gets done, okay?
But I want to thank you very, very much for coming in and taking your time. I know it was a lot to sit through the whole meeting waiting for you, but we really appreciate it, because it's great to hear from you guys as well as to what we should do.
Well, it was interesting that, you know, to sit and to listen to the budget, and it seems like, you know, it's making a lot more sense and a lot more easily understandable. And I think that for you guys and trying to get this to the public, to have them understand, you know, what the actual need is, and to see it, and to see, you know, comparisons of, you know, FY 16, 17, going into 19, where the changes are and what the percentages are.
Well, I think if people took the time and really looked at it online, they'd see that we're not asking them for anything unreasonable. I mean, this is what we need to operate the school system, and thank you for throwing that in there. Little plug, I appreciate it.
Just as a follow-up for, I know that we've had 2 meetings. I know September is going to join us at probably our next meeting. The next meeting of the school committee, they would make a vote or a reconsideration of what the name is, April 9th. So if we, just for your, we certainly, obviously, you know, it's an open meeting for you, but to come. But just as an FYI, I'm assuming that the committee will probably, by then, we'll probably have a full board too. Hopefully Dan will be back from his surgery. And so then we can plan if after that to meet to do all of the work that needs to happen to make this happen. So.
And I think he deserves it, so that's one that I support.
We're also open and available too, if you have any other suggestions that you want to run by.
No, I think you guys probably did all the work for us, and that's great. I love that.
We did a lot of discussion.
Did a lot of discussion.
Right. So.
Thank you for having us. And,
Oh, our pleasure, trust me.
I think it's such a wonderful idea.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And Dr. Nash?
Oh, yes.
Right here.
As I untangle myself from my suit. So we also have one other follow-up. As you are aware, last June, the school committee had a discussion regarding another individual in our town who unfortunately passed away at a relatively early age. and that is a gentleman named Steve Palermo. Excuse me, I should know that name because I remember seeing him when he was an umpire. As we, as the town also wanted to honor this gentleman. And as I pointed out to you at the last meeting, you had a discussion back on June 12th of 2017 regarding the potential of naming a baseball field, the high school baseball field, Palermo Field, but did not take a vote, which I pointed out to you at that meeting, even though I think you might have thought you did. There was no record in the minutes that a vote was taken. I think all of you were as I understand it, a general agreement that this was a good idea. Dr. Garceau had brought that up, and all of you, I think, agreed to that. I had a preliminary meeting with the athletic director to kind of discuss this, actually, and at that meeting, part of our discussion involved timing of all of this and how would that happen, given the fact at that point in time that I didn't know that the school committee probably had not necessarily approved it. But just in general, to talk about what would it mean, what would it involve, and part of that discussion, I suggested that we call Sean Duvall, who heads up DPW and all of that, to see whether or not they might assist us in any way. And when I called, he indicated to me that the town had already made some decisions to move forward with something that was going to be happening as soon as this spring as part of the Little League kickoff. So I met with the town manager and Sean Duvall last week, and as I indicated I would to the committee the last time, so that I could discuss with them the nature of the Palermo tribute and bring that back to you to see whether or not you still wanted to move forward. So on April 15th, which is the Little League kickoff, they are going to honor and celebrate his life, if you will, by doing the following. They are going to unveil a sign naming the drive that is between the community center and the church. That's going to be renamed or named, I don't think it has a name right now, if I understand it, Palermo Drive. So that's the first thing that they're going to do. In addition, they are going to unveil a plaque, as they indicated to me, at the Stanley Johnson Little League Field in honor of this gentleman. There are going to be representatives from Major League Baseball who will be there as part of a tribute to this man's legacy. And so the question is whether or not the school committee, based on that, would still like to move forward and do something on their own, or whether or not, as I said, I would bring back that information to you as to what the town was doing. We certainly would not be ready to do something on April 15th. So I just bring that back to you for informational purposes. Certainly, the school committee at a future date can decide to do something, but it wouldn't be something that we would potentially do if you wanted to move forward in naming the field. And again, I'm assuming research has been done and this field is not named for anybody at this point in time. And you certainly can do that. But as I said, I would bring back that information for you to consider. So.
Okay, any questions from the committee on that one? No. We are too late to join in the festivities for April 15th, so we can kind of take our time on that one. But I had thought we had voted on that, and we didn't, because they went back and looked at the tapes. And you know, a lot of times we just get excited, and we just don't think all the time that we need to vote for things. But so this one we will take a vote on, and so for your consideration, probably next meeting, we'll just have it on there for a vote to make it official, if that's what you want to do. And if that's not, then we should think of other things to do to honor Mr. Palermo, who is yet another town person that I kind of grew up with, and did a tremendous amount for the town, as well as what he achieved in his own personal life. So we do want to commemorate him in some way, shape, or form as well. So we've got two people to talk about, and hopefully we can get that put to bed.
So we'll put both on the agenda for the next meeting,
Please.
April 9th. Okay. All right, and that is it, Mr. Chairman, for me.
All right, thank you very much. I think,
You're
are you okay to talk anymore, or are you
Oh,
pretty
fine.
much talked out? You
I'm
all
done.
right? All right. Could we hear from each of the school committee members? Mrs. Day?
Okay, well, first I'd like to thank Dr. Nash for the presentation tonight and to the Finance Committee on Wednesday. We sincerely appreciate all the work and guidance that you've put into it. And like the gentleman in the audience said, it really makes it easier for the public to understand. So hopefully it will be easier for us to get the word out to the public about the needs. So Justin, if you could, can you go back and see what it will cost per taxpayer for the $623,000 so that we can communicate that? And then also, I'd like to, now that we voted on it, let's get something up on the webpage to say that, this is what we need and this is the impact of, put up the presentation, something right on the front page to really make it stand out. And I know that last year we did like a budget information session to the public. I know we've done it here, but another way to try to get the word out to more people, I think, might be something worth looking at. And another thing, I'm very grateful to have so many people out in the audience today. And we need your help, right? Sorry, it's really hard because you see it every year and it's hard, So, Facebook, tell everybody, go to the grocery store, tell them what's happening in Oxford. Sorry.
No, it's good. You're passionate about it.
It's hard. It's sick to, it makes me sick to my stomach every year. And, All right, on a lighter note, I was able to attend the Dorothy in Wonderland. What a wonderful production. Thank you, Ms. Looney, for all your hard work and your team for putting that together and all of the students. It was absolutely terrific. Family Fun Night, thank you, Mr. P. and the PTO for putting that on. That was really wonderful. Ms. Wiley, I apologize that you've had to put your MCAS information session off again, but I went to that last year, and that was really helpful because I had someone, that was going into 3rd grade, so it was their first time taking the MCAS test, and I would say anybody that has a 3rd grader should attend that so that they know what to look for. And I'm sorry, Dr. Nash, I think I heard you say that the town meeting was May 4th.
I thought it was.
But isn't it the 1st? Isn't it usually on a Tuesday? I want to make sure we get that right date out because what's important is to know is, so now that we've decided to go for the override.
Hers, I'm sorry.
What?
I only went on her information.
Right.
It's May 1st, right?
May 1st.
May
May
1st?
1st at 7 p.m. And that's in the auditorium here. So we have to make sure that we get parents there because you have to be present to vote for this. And this is just to vote to get it on the ballot. So this is just step 1.
Right.
So the more people that you can tell to attend it on May 1st at 7 p.m., the better off we are. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Oh, no.
Oh, I'm glad I
pleasure.
stand
I'm glad you said
corrected.
it.
I'm glad you said that.
Go right ahead.
All right, thank you. So I will echo Mrs. Day's sentiment to Dr. Nash and the Finance Committee, and of course, Justin always working so hard to present that budget in such an easy read fashion. Also, I wanted to congratulate Justin, the Finance Committee, and the SPED Department for your corrective action plan and your zero problem audit. That's wonderful. I'm very much looking forward to the Night of the Arts that will be put on by the middle school and the high school because I've been the last couple of years and it's really great to showcase the work of the students and the teachers. And I also wanted to just say thank you to Commander Maisley and his family for all that they've done, for sticking with this project and seeing it through. And I look forward to the naming of our field if that's what the town and the committee agrees to. Thank you. That's it for me.
Go right ahead.
Just want to echo the same sentiments, basically, of the other committee members. And you can see I'm wearing my orange and black pin. Many of you probably remember them from last year. This is one thing of many that we can all do to support the override. Again, if you wear this every day, people might be like, what's that pin on your shirt for? Anything that you can think of. I mean, I know we have brilliant minds throughout this town to promote what we got to do to close the gap and to continue to really educate our students the right way would be greatly appreciated. And then again, phenomenal play. My kids had the best weekend of their life going to Family Fun Night and then going to the play. And geez, they think it's, unbelievable in Oxford, all the amazing things that we do for our kids. And it's even outside the school hours. It's quite amazing. So Thank you.
Thanks. I really think everything's been said tonight, so I'm not going to bore you with anything else. I said we'd open up for public comment. Has anybody decided to say any more? You guys all listened out for tonight and ready to go? All right, we'll close it again. And I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do we have a second on that?
Second.
Put that to a vote, please. Mrs. Day?
Yes.
Mrs. Forbes?
Yes.
Mrs. Griffin? I also
Yes.
vote yes. We're now adjourned.